Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rod Gantis, and I am your host for a new radio show. Some of you have been following me on my two other shows that I do, The Rad Life and Check Out California. Paul, thank you for that impromptu music that I asked him to find.
Wow, throwing it together at the last minute.
That's Paul Roberts. This is how we do live radio, ladies and gentlemen, right? It is how the sausage is being made. Some of you have been watching us on Caterina Haiek's feed on Facebook. Caterina Haiek is with me in the studio today.
We had a bunch of meltdowns.
We had some meltdowns today, but this is it. This is live radio. It's not for the faint-hearted, as we always say. This is a new show. I've been wanting to do this show for a while, and I want to give a shout-out to people that have actually been really supportive of us getting to this point. Even though it looks messy, it actually gets better. So tune in next month. But Yalla America Radio. And many of you guys know, Yalla, we've all heard it growing up. My mom told it to me many times. Yalla, Yalla. Paul actually, I think, is going to become a real proponent of Yalla.
Hurry up.
Hurry up, yeah. Yalla is a common expression to those who don't know, and it's denoting, come on, let's get going. It's kind of like almost like vamos, I guess, in Spanish, or vamonos, and mostly meaning hurry up. Originally in the Arabic language, and it's also, interestingly enough, I didn't know this until I started thinking what to name the show, but it's actually been adopted by Persians and Hebrews in the Hebrew language. So I guess all our cousins use the Yalla firm. Yalla America Radio will strive to showcase Arab American success stories once a month to begin with on the second Friday of the month at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And we will be bringing you guests that exemplify the Arab Americans on the go, the Arab American experience, people driven to excel and passionately partaking in the American dream, movers and shakers that are engaged in their communities and industriously adding to the diverse fabric of this country we all love. Business leaders, community organizers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, journalists, civil servants, care providers, and on and on. So, Yalla, we hope that you will join Yalla America Radio. And I might have a co-host surprise for you guys that may be joining me when she can. That is somebody that the community knows very well and is very well regarded. But I could not think of a better way to kick off this show. Well, I can. I actually can think of one better way to kick off this show. No disrespect to Caterina. But I can't really think of a better way to kick off the show. I was really privileged when I kicked off the Rad Life show to have friend, the powerhouse, Carrie Kasem, daughter of Casey Kasem, yes. To kick off my Rad Life show 3 years ago. And Caterina Haiek is here, and we're talking about her dad, my friend, Joseph Haiek, and his 45-plus years of advocacy for the Arab American community, not only advocating but also reporting and chronologically keeping the history and the heritage of the Arab American community through multiple publications, and we'll touch on a bunch of them here in a minute. But Joe passed away in December, while
January
25th. January 25th.
Yes.
Sorry, yes. Oh wow, well that's three days after my birthday. But he was on a trip. I think I got this impression from the service, Caterina, that he kind of walked away, passed away, whatever you want to call it, on a high note.
Very much so.
Right?
Yes.
And in a way, it was full circle, kind of, kind of very fitting, actually, on kind of almost on his own terms in a way, other than maybe the medical.
Yes.
He had been ailing for a while, and Caterina was taking care of him very admirably. I mean, I can't believe what you went through. We all have parents that are getting older.
Yes.
It wasn't easy, I'm sure.
Not at all.
Yeah. and yet you figure out a way to put him on a plane and take him to Egypt,
which was one of his dreams.
Right.
To be fulfilled.
Right.
Yes.
And this was December, right?
Yes, I took him. We went via Zurich for 2 nights, and then we arrived in Cairo on Christmas morning. And he was doing great. He had a huge smile on his face. And I said, "Dad, are you glad you're here?" He said, "Very much so. And thank you for bringing me."
And he was
And
he went with you. It wasn't just a trip to go to Egypt, right? It was there was also another reason why you were going.
right, the Association of Egyptian American Scholars had invited me to speak at their conference on December 28th, which was actually my father's 85th birthday. And the conference was being held at Ain Shams University in Cairo. And the 3-day conference started on December 26th, 27th, 28th. And then when they found out that that my father was coming, Dr. Ahraf, Amr Ahraf, who's our neighbor here in OC, and he's also on our advisory board, he suggested for the organization, the association, to honor him on the awards night. But I didn't realize how extensive the award was. It was just really a surprise for both of us. So we arrived at the El Masa. That's a new Cairo. It's a new capital of Cairo. It's like about an hour from Cairo, and we were there, and we just had started eating dinner, and we had met the Minister of Military Production of Egypt, Dr. Assad. Anyway, so and then Dr. Adel Moghrabi, who is the president of the association, and Dr. Muhammad Attallah, who was the head of the conference, and very nice, very nice group of scholars. They're all professors in various universities throughout the world, and we were very, we couldn't believe that we were there, and all of a sudden they started the awards ceremony, and they honored my father. He even stood up from his wheelchair and received the award from the minister as well as Dr. Adel Maghrabi. It was just a very nice evening to preclude his 85th birthday, and which was the next day. And then we spoke. Actually, they had invited us to speak. I had mentioned that. Then, I gave the talk the following day. It was a paper that was actually published in their program book.
And
here.
what was the paper on?
It was about here. Let me just. And Dr. Sorry, hold on. I've got these headsets on. So it was actually the interconnectivity of historical foundations and professional associations.
Okay.
So we spoke about the Yalla American Historical Foundation and how it has enhanced the associations throughout the world in bringing it. You know, we record history.
Right.
My father's recorded history for 45 years.
For those who don't know, I think if we can take a minute and give a little background on your dad.
Well,
where did he come from, where he was born, and then how he got to be so involved in this.
Sure. He was born in Jerusalem, Palestine in 1932, on December 28, 1932. During 1948, during the Nakba, he was a teenager. And when he got married to my mother, who's also born in Palestine, but she's of Armenian descent, you know, when they started having children, us 4 children, I have a brother, Alex, myself, Layla, and Louis. We're all under the age of 9. We left in 1967, and it's truly a Hollywood to Jerusalem story. I mean, Jerusalem to Hollywood story.
Yeah.
And I actually was, you know, we were young. We were kind of confused with what was going on.
How old were you?
I was about 7, and we were in the bomb shelters in Jerusalem. So we were exposed to all of that for the 6 days.
This is the 6-Day War, 1967.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I think we were traumatized as children with all of that. But when we moved here, we were speaking like several little languages, but we're not fully developed in those languages. But my father felt the need. He came here. He realized that the community wasn't united. And he felt led after 5 years, after becoming a citizen, and he became a citizen in 5 years. In 1972, he started, publishing his newspaper. he felt led to bring the community together. This is
The New Circle.
right, the News Circle, and it was a tabloid similar to this right here. And
We can hold it to the camera.
yeah.
Here.
and this
Let-
was
let
the
me do that
this,
while
this
you
is a 1979 version, but you could see the headlines on that first page and how extensive it was. Now he has about 45 years of this. It wasn't only a tabloid; it was a tabloid about for 10 years. Then it grew into a magazine format, and
So let me just say this.
yes.
This is from January 1979.
yes,
And for those who say, why is it important to document stuff? Okay, there's stuff on the front page of this thing that is completely news to me in 2018. That's from January 1979. There's headlines: Victor Ataya, new governor of Oregon. I had no clue there was a governor of Oregon that is of Arab American descent.
yes,
You know, there's something about a bishop, actually, and there's Los Angeles Arab Americans purchase building for center. There's William Niemi, Republican club to honor Mike Curb. Lebanon Syrian American Society elect Baron Serkis president. This is Iraqi press delegation visits Los Angeles. Okay, so
and that's just the front page.
and that's just the front. That's just page one.
I know.
okay?
I
You know, and it's
Exactly.
it's fascinating because for those, you know, and then there's also advertisings from restaurants, you know, things that may not be around. This is literally, yes, it's a newspaper, but it's also, you know, there's an ad for George Coury for Congress.
Yes,
You know,
1979.
1979.
That's
So-
one of them.
Yeah, this is this is how history gets documented, and this is why I know you guys have a current effort to fundraise for digitization of all your dad's
Exactly.
records. This is invaluable resource, and for those who don't realize, Arab Americans in the United States, it's a long heritage of Arab Americans, long history of Arab Americans in the United States, starting with and Paul, you can speak to this from being in Michigan, you know, from people that came. I know a lot of people that came from Lebanon, for example, that worked in the auto industry in the 30s, and so forth and so on. So there's a very interwoven into the fabric in the United States.
Since you mentioned my name, can I ask a question
Yes,
here?
please.
Where is the largest concentration of Arab Americans? I know I grew up in Detroit, suburban Detroit,
Yep.
and somewhere in the 70s or 80s, I couldn't tell you exactly
Dearborn
when.
and Warren.
Dearborn and Warren, mostly even Dearborn,
Yep.
is now, I would say, mostly Arab Americans. I don't know from what areas. I know there's also a large Chaldean population
Yep.
in Detroit, and I
There's-
don't know
there's
why
actually-
they
there's like
came there or when they came, but huge Arab Americans.
There's a
So,
large Chaldean population here in
Right.
California too.
Yeah.
so do we know where Arabs came and concentrated when they came? And I know that's a broad term that can mean many countries and many
Right,
cultures
exactly.
and many faiths.
It also
but-
depends on
Right.
on when, like what
and for what reasons?
for what reason, right?
right.
Yeah.
Mainly for the Palestinians came in during the 60s and 40s, 48 after 48, because they no longer felt that, you know, Palestine.
They
was-
got
was-
displaced.
Well,
right.
exactly.
They were displaced, right.
Exactly.
They were displaced.
Completely. They were occupied. They had no homeland anymore. So we were hoping to go back, but it's been 70 years, and
And-
the,
but where
the
did
Iraqis.
where did they move?
They-
Most ethnic groups came. There's a beachhead established someplace
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, and then others usually follow. I'm also half or a quarter Polish. Detroit and Chicago have the two largest Polish populations. I don't know why. Probably the factories or something. But
Let me just, because we're getting into this sort of, and in case somebody wants to join in, I know that I mentioned this earlier when we were doing the live feed only on Caterina's Facebook page, but again, to tell everybody who may be watching us or hearing us, you just
this is live, so you can
This is-
call
this
in,
is
you can
live, so you can-
participate, share
right.
your stories of Katrina's
what's
dad.
what's the number they could call in, Paul?
949-330-7761. 949-330-7761. Operators standing by.
And you also are able to tweet us.
yes, at OC Talk Radio.
All right, so hashtag OC Talk Radio. So if you have any interest in basically joining us, please do. Lines are open. It's not a unique story for Arab Americans. I think it's a repeat story for any immigrant. We saw it with the Iraqis after the Iraq War. We saw it with the
Exactly.
Syrians more recently.
Right.
There's religious persecution. Sometimes it's a war. Sometimes it's economic plight. You're Irish and you're Polish. I think there is a large concentration right now in like Michigan, Dearborn area.
And-
You see a lot of involvement, a lot of institutions that are organized, the Arab American Museum, and so forth. There's also a huge concentration in Los Angeles and
In
Southern
Southern
California,
California.
all the way down to San Diego.
And also in the Tri-Cities
And the
of
Tri-Cities in
Washington,
Washington,
D.C., yeah, and New York.
So it's not. It's
Those
not.
are, right.
I
There,
would-
there are, there's about 4 million Arab Americans.
So there's a
living in
lot of people in Chicago,
in-
but again, you could say that maybe that's Midwest Michigan kind of area.
Mhm.
But I think the misnomer is to say that Arab Americans are actually concentrated in certain areas only, because in fact, when you go back to 1930s and maybe even earlier, you go to people like Khalil Gibran, you go to people that were
That's
really
also-
really involved and very much part of the American culture.
Right.
We
But
really are in all walks of life. We're spread all over the country with larger concentrations, obviously, like we were talking about, like maybe on the West Coast, in the Midwest.
Right. That's what my father did after publishing all of these. There's about 300 issues that he's published through the tabloids, the magazines, and then in between these, he summarized his publications through the Arab American Almanac. There's
which we have,
six.
for
The sixth
those-
edition is the most substantial because it's covered the 45 years of coverage that he's had, but this also covers historical referencing to the 1600s
Right.
of the Arab. Now we're talking about Americans of Arabic descent,
Correct.
people that speak the Arabic language that come from the 22 different Arab countries in the Arab world. There's a huge. It's unfortunate. There's a stereotypical thing that all Arabs are Muslims and all Muslims are Arabs, which is not the case. There's a lot. We're Christian Arabs of Palestinian descent. So there's a huge
And
percentage.
even within
Right.
even within that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
When you say you're Christian,
Right.
of Christian faith, right?
Yes.
What denomination of Christianity?
We're actually, my father was baptized Orthodox and my mother is Catholic, so we're raised Melkite.
So
And then-
so you are exactly like me, other than I wasn't raised Melkite.
Right,
But basically,
yes.
my father is Greek Orthodox,
Right.
and my mom is Catholic.
Yes.
And I used to joke about the fact that meant I got to party with the Greek Orthodox at night and felt guilty about it with the Catholics in the morning, right?
Right.
But basically,
That's true.
this misnomer that there's only one neat little package that you can basically put an Arab. I mean, Arab countries are 20 some countries that are all different dialects that share a language
Yes.
as a written and
That's what-
spoken language, but the traditions are different. The culinary traditions are different. They're
Right.
interwoven,
Right.
but there's definitely flavors that are different. And to lump everybody together, which I'm sorry, I'm going to just basically get on a soapbox here for a minute. To lump everybody together in the United States as Arab American as being fitting one particular sort of stereotype, where it really counts to count us as a group of people, which is in the census, we still can't get a category to define, to be able to pick from, then say, I'm not white, I'm not Native American, I'm
Right.
not
I know
other,
that's-
I'm actually Middle Eastern, or the larger category, which is MENA, Middle Eastern, North African, right? We can't seem to get the government to actually allow for that census category to be added into the census. And yet, it's very easy and common to have people stereotype Arabs as being fitting into one box. But the only box we are interested in getting, we can't seem to get on a census form.
Well,
Sorry, I'm off my
yeah,
soapbox,
no,
but
I
it's kind of
totally agree with
fascinating,
you.
kind of duality.
I know where we belong. We're Americans. We have U.S. citizenship. My father, we've been living here for 50 years. We're Americans first.
Oh, you
But
guys just
we
got
are-
here.
Yeah, right. So, they have to recognize us as a people of this country, where it's sad to say that we're still a minority. and we need to be added
But
immediately.
we're not even
immediately.
we're not even a recognized minority, to be honest. I
No.
mean, because
Well-
without that census, and I understand that people will say, well, within the Arab American community, people are not wanting to basically identify because they're worried about being profiled and all that and so forth. I think that is changing generation upon generation as people get a little more confident and find their own civic voice, and get engaged. Ironically, that engagement is not new. As I said, I just pulled up a magazine from 1979 that basically showed you the depth of involvement in American culture, civic service. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh,
Yes.
can you turn that down in the back there? Just hit that
Oh.
button right next to the phone. There's a button right there, up and up. No, up higher. Oh, no. Yeah, okay. That'll do it. All right. All right, sorry. We're going to teach her how to turn it on the phone here.
Live radio. Phone? This is the only phone I know, Dale.
Okay, here's my question, and here's my fact I wanted to insert since you brought it up. How many people know? Most people know there's over 1 billion Muslims in the world.
There's
The 62% of them do not live in the Middle East. They live in Asia Pacific,
Exactly.
and the largest
Malaysia.
from Turkey to Indonesia and Malaysia.
and
Actually,
they're
Indonesia.
They're non-Arabs.
And
They
they're
don't
non-Arabs.
speak. They
Right.
only 25% of the 1.7 billion Muslims in the world are of Arabic descent from Arab world.
I think people would be shocked. I think they
No,
would
because
think it's
the rest
opposite.
the rest come from India, from Asia,
Indonesia,
Indonesia,
Malaysia,
exactly.
right, Pakistan.
And you know what? Europe, South America, and
Well-
America, and they're
So
non-Arabs,
that's
and they
one
don't speak. They don't
surprise.
even. Well, they speak the Arabic because of the Quran, but
Well, because the Quran is
that's pretty. Yeah,
officially the Quran
right.
should only be recited in Arabic.
right.
Okay.
Right.
As
but-
a language. Don't I
Right.
don't know why, but that's just the way it
But-
is. But that's sort of the amazing thing. Okay, so the Census Bureau estimates, because like I just said, we don't have a friggin' way of actually counting correctly, but it estimates that at least 1.9 million Americans are of Arab descent. Arab
It's
descent.
much more than that.
And that is an
Right.
undervaluation for sure.
Right.
Okay.
How would
It's-
they
it's
know
more-
if there's
it's
no
clo- it's-
category?
but
in
that's the whole
census?
thing, because you know what
Yeah.
the closer number
That's-
is?
we-
The closer number is 3.7. It's 4 million.
Right.
Okay, Arab Americans that live in 50 states, but 2/3 are concentrated, to your point, in 10 states. 1/3 of the total live in California, New York, and Michigan. So what we were talking about,
Right,
the tri-state
and then-
area, the Midwest, and Southern California.
And my father's goal, my father Joseph Hayek's goal, was to, for 45 years, to record our involvement in American society and how we've contributed through our achievements, through all categories of service to America. And he's done a great job. In fact, to the point where he was awarded the Ellis Island Medal of Honor
Yep.
in 2011. They were not going to give him that award. And then the president of that of NACO said, we have to, because this is a typical example of the immigrant story of how my father has contributed to America in a very, very profound way through his publications, through his books, his newspapers, and he did it all in print. This is before social media revolution. This is before the internet. Everything that he's done is in print, and our goal right now for the Arab American Historical Foundation, and it really truly needs your support, is to document and digitize everything that he's published. And it's already in the Library of Congress, and his goal was to have it in all the university libraries for research purposes for generations to come.
Do you have a foundation set up
What-
to do that?
Yes.
Is there a place people can
What's the
donate? We're
Yes,
down to the
it's-
last few
Give the
minutes.
website
Right.
and contact
It's
information.
right here. It's Arab American Historical Foundation, and I brought 2 copies.
Well, yeah, Bob.
And
What's the website that people can find out information on, or how do they find it?
ArabAmericanHistory.org.
right.
ArabAmericanHistory.org.
And then there's a support link, and if you click on that, there's then a red donate link, which will take you into the funding version. It would really be helpful
And-
because we need the funds right now to keep up with his
There's 45
documentation.
45
So-
years worth of documentation, ladies and gentlemen, that basically needs to be digitized for everybody.
Can't be lost.
Myself, future generations to have access to be able to trace back and have pride in their contributions to our country, to the United States.
And to document it, to remember it. You
Exactly.
know, that's been one of the criticisms. America's a woven fabric of many countries and many cultures. They don't always get recognized, many of the cultures, particularly if
Well-
you're not the dominant
Well, the reason
English European culture here. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the reason being is that when my father, in the first few years that we moved here, he noticed the media was very one-sided, and they did not understand. It's a matter of being educated. It's not naivety or ignorance, but I feel that the media does not really portray us in a very good way. And that was his goal, is to neutrally document and to print and to publish the stories of our people and how we have been involved in this country in a very
And to
huge
break the
way.
stereotype, and everybody's not
Exactly.
wearing, and everybody's not dressed up like an oil
No,
sheik
not
or
at all.
right.
Not at all.
Well,
and
and-
you know, the way he did it, I mean, he could have stopped 20 years into it, but no, he kept on going. And I was involved with his publishing efforts for about 30 years, and then my sister was involved for 20 years. And
Is
we
the publication still around?
the publication's not around, but the almanac will be. We're in the process of publishing the 7th edition, which will have about 100 to 200 more pages. We will be including a lot of the younger generation of Arab Americans of ages 20 to 50 who've really contributed to America and to the world, who are Arab Americans as citizens of the United States.
Let me just share this with somebody, with everybody who can see it, and I will explain it verbally too. In my right hand is the 3rd Arab American Almanac. See that thickness? This is the 6th Arab American
Wow,
Almanac.
twice as big.
It's twice as big. Okay, so for those who talk about that, there's no need to document the stuff. Absolutely, there is, and it's invaluable. How do you put a price on a culture's history? And when I say culture, I don't mean the Arab American culture. I mean the United States culture of the United States,
Right.
of which a component of which just is the history. It's like, do you take the Native American story out of the American culture? You don't. Do you take the Italian story out of the American culture? You don't. It is part of what
Don't take
makes
the Irish story. I
you
better
know,
not take that one
no,
out.
I would never think twice. But I also do want to give, if anybody has
And
questions.
can I say
yeah,
something? I hope
go
this
ahead.
isn't too inflammatory, but in an era, we all know what's going on right now. A certain segment of my friends and relatives, I'm sorry to say, my Midwestern
Ironically,
heritage
in the Midwest.
in the Midwest, are the ones who are yelling silently or otherwise, we don't need any more Arabs in this country. We have literally put up a ban for 6 or 7 Arab countries here.
You know what?
And part of that is an ignorance as to what Arabs have already contributed to this country and what they will continue, like every
Well-
other ethnic group, every other religious group, every
more
other
reason
regional group.
more reason why it's important to have shows like this and
Right.
for this
Exactly.
to be digitized. I think I will tell you something. I don't think that anger, and I may be naive, but I don't think that anger is against Arab Americans per se. I think the current manifestation of it is conveniently labeled that way. Okay,
because of the media,
because of the
which is
media.
controlled. The
Right.
media is definitely controlled by a certain group, and
But-
I don't want to say
and this
Well,
fear
I
that
don't, I don't even, I
everyone-
don't even want to go. I
Sorry.
don't want to even go there. Right?
Yeah.
What was tapped into was the disenfranchisement of white, middle-aged Americans
Right.
that were basically being left behind by economic progress and jobs going overseas
And culture changing. and
right. But what that then became weaponized was to basically take that anger and channel it about one person being responsible, one entity, one group being responsible. Well, we've been here before. Okay, if you remember, it wasn't that long ago before Jews were basically targeted like that by Nazis. It wasn't that
The
long ago.
Irish were targeted in the
wasn't
late
by the
1800s,
British.
yeah,
Right.
right.
So it is always convenient to put a face, be it wrong, on a certain group of people.
Yes.
It's easy to blame the
It's easy
immigrant.
to play the immigrant, and
Right.
this is nothing new. We've been here before, America,
But you know what?
right?
That's the reason why all of these articles that my father's published gives it a different light, and we definitely, our main emphasis right now is through the Arab American Historical Foundation that he founded in 1978, 6 years after he started publishing. is to cross-reference all of the thousands of articles that he's written, and including the contributing editors and the contributing writers who have contributed hundreds and thousands of articles within the magazines and the newspapers that he's published, to be cross-referenced on the internet through Google. And let's say we'll pull up the Rad family. The Rad, you Google Rad, you know, in addition to your talk show.
Don't
and all
Google
that.
me because
No,
there's
no,
way
no,
too
what
many.
I'm
Well,
saying-
no, there's way too many postings
No,
already.
I'm
on
just
there.
giving you an example.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
But let's say a family name.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to type it in, and it's going to come up. 1978.
How much do you need to complete the project? Have you estimated the
okay,
cost?
we are in talks right now. I'm presenting a proposal. I was in last Monday when I was in Alexandria, Egypt. Met with the head of collections at the Library of Alexandria, and they are so interested in archiving
Do you
and
have
to
an idea what it's
cross-reference.
going to cost to
How
do
much?
this?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, it's gonna cost quite a bit
So-
because we're talking 45 years of documented history. My father's a historian, a publisher, a journalist.
Well, it isn't just scanning it. You got to break it all down and put
Right.
meta tags.
Well,
No, no,
it has to be searchable database.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just share. I've been on the San Clemente Historical Society, for those who know where that is in South Orange County, for about 13 years. The history of San Clemente basically started in 1926, and basically for 2 or 3 years is where all the happenings happened, and newspapers and so forth, right? For the last 13 years of being involved with that organization, I have been fascinated reading newspapers for 2 years or 3 years worth of information. And what it unveiled for me living in there since 1987 that I did not know. I cannot imagine, 45 years of a treasure trove of information being available for people to connect dots, to find out, to look backwards, right? Anybody who's interested, I really urge you to check out the Arab American Historical Foundation and its arabamericanhistory.org website, or reach out to Caterina, and it's Caterina Haiek at gmail.com, and it's spelled CaterinaHaiek at gmail.com, and find out and reach out. I mean, I think this is a very important thing. Whatever little part you can play, they're going to need people to help with the digitizing. They're going to need people to fundraise for money. This is really,
It's so
I
important.
honestly cannot think of a better way to kick off the show.
Yes.
I do have a couple of pieces of housekeeping that I need to take care of.
Real quickly,
but-
because we got another show. We're
but
knocking
I
at
would,
the door here.
I would love to have you come back,
Yeah,
because
that
we
would be
haven't even
great.
done your dad
You know,
justice at all.
I know, real quick, but our aim, our goal for the 7th edition Arab American Almanac is to just distribute it to 50,000 American libraries. There's about 120,000 libraries in the United States. We want to distribute it electronically and in print. Very important, even though the library system is not as
Robust.
robust as
Well,
it used to be.
I have given
But
it. I've given
yes,
it. I've given
but we
it.
need it for research purposes.
Right.
It's so pertinent. You have no idea.
So when it comes out, I suggest you buy
Yes.
it, give it away to people that you know that may be interested, Arabs or otherwise. Okay,
Yes.
we are very much a part of the fabric of the United States. We have been for a very, very long time. A couple of pieces of housekeeping. Again, you didn't mention this. I will. Your dad's stuff is already in the Library of Congress.
Yes.
We're looking to they're looking to get it into the Library of Alexandria, one of the oldest libraries in the world. I want to thank
Italy.
the following people for really pushing me and to do this, and you will hear more and more about them as the show continues. But I want to thank my friend Rashad Dabar,
Yes.
who is also the executive director, and he was on my other show. He's executive director of the Arab American Civic Council. He's also the head of the Little Arabia District. I want to thank Olives Branch and Olives Branch Express that are in Irvine and South County, my friend Omar Schmeit. I'd like to thank Alan Abdu from Olive Tree in Anaheim's Little Arabia. I want to thank my buddy Rayad Yaku and his wife Muna, who are Pacific Hills Banquet and
Wonderful.
Catering, and where we had our Heritage Gala. I want you guys to
Yes.
check out the upcoming Heritage
They're
Gala
wonderful.
in
All
April.
of them. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if you are interested in having your music and your musician be part of our developing intro and outro pieces for this show, reach me at Rod, R-A-A-D, period, Gantus, G-H-A-N-T-O-U-S, at gmail.com. We will have entries, we'll have people voting on them, and there's a reward of dinner for two at a restaurant in Little Arabia, courtesy of the Little Arabia district. Rashad will be on to tell you about that next month. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Caterina, for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
And Yalla.
And mabruk on your new show.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.